folks. We are here to talk about 5 surprising things that you might not have known about pain. We are back, and even though pain is a universal human experience, we have most people have a very limited understanding of pain, even though it is part of our daily lives, especially for those of us living with migraine. As I've delved deeper into the neuroscience of pain with my certifications in pain care aware yoga, pain reprocessing therapy, I've come to fundamentally change my understanding of migraine and actually give myself much more hope and skills that you can learn so many ways to decrease your own migraine pain, which we'll talk about today. So I come here live every Wednesday in the Yoga for Migraine Facebook group, and today I'm going to share these 5 surprising things that you may not have understood about pain, and also answer some questions that our followers submitted in the group. If you're joining me live, love to hear from you. Hashtag live, say where you're from, or hashtag replay. It helps boost our algorithm so more people can see us here. So I'm going to talk about 1, the purpose of pain and why pain is not actually trying to ruin your life as much as it feels like it. 2, why physical pain always has an emotional component with it. 3, the common changes that people with persistent or chronic pain might experience. 4, why pain is real, but is also heavily influenced by other factors that you might not have considered before. And finally, 5, how persistent chronic pain creates changes in the brain and nervous system that can be reversed. And we'll talk about the ways to reverse chronic pain and answer your questions. So let's get going. Julie, I'm so glad you're here joining me live. Feel free to add any questions or comments in our chat. So what's wonderful as you guys are here, just understanding the role of the nervous system in your pain. Research has actually shown that this can decrease your pain. So you are here, just showing up is actually helping to decrease your pain. Studies have also shown that it has decreased your fear about your pain in addition to catastrophic thinking. So pat on the back just for showing up and learning. So let's talk about the purpose of pain. The purpose of pain, it is to grab our attention and to motivate us to stop or change our behavior. It is there to protect us. And I know that migraine doesn't feel like a nice, soothing, warm blanket to protect us, but that's really the purpose of pain. So if you sprain and twist your ankle, the pain is gonna alarm you, hey, you need to stop moving and walking on this so that your ankle can heal. And so that is the protection mechanism of pain. And often with pain, we can get into this adversarial relationship, especially when pain persists. But to have that compassion and thankfulness that our pain is here to protect us, even though it might not always be that helpful and accurate in its assessment of how to protect us, that can change a lot. So what happens is when you experience physical pain, there are a combination of neurons, of changes in your spinal cord, in your brain. It's incredibly complex, and you could probably spend multiple college classes on it. So we're gonna kind of make an easy Cliff Notes version, but basically the neural circuits where you experience something in your senses, it activates the idea that danger exists, and 2, that action is required, and that is what produces the pain. A really key part of that equation is that your brain has to create the opinion that danger exists. Without danger, you don't actually experience the pain. Often I notice I have a huge bruise on my leg. I'm like, how did I even get that? I have no recollection. And at that time, I probably didn't think it was dangerous. I didn't even think much about it. But there are many instances that you can imagine where if you get a paper cut, it might not register that deeply and be that painful. So one of the hacks as to learn to get out of chronic pain is to change our brain's perception of danger. And we're going to go into that a little bit more. Heather, I'm so glad that you're here. Thanks for joining me live. So pain, it's here to protect us. It's not our enemy. And then pain also shares similar real estate in the brain as emotional pain. So the second thing that might surprise you is that physical and emotional pain are always intertwined, that we cannot actually have, due to our physiology and anatomy, a physical sensation of pain without an associated emotion. So think about if you stub your toe, usually you get mad. When we experience migraine, often the mood changes might be more sad, more irritable. So know that this is a normal part of our physical and emotional pain experience. When we are physically heartbroken, when we feel socially rejected, studies have literally shown the changes in the brain and body that happen due to just social and emotional changes. So this also harkens back to the yoga philosophy. It's called the Chakra Model of how our beings are multi-layered. It's not just this mechanical, like the body gets hurt and there's pain, but it can affect our emotions, it can affect our breath, and each part of the being, according to yoga, has a different layer, from the physical to the energy body to the intellect. So all of these are related, and it's great to see in the Western model, the biopsychosocial model, starting to take in some of these as well. So let's talk about what happens when you develop persistent pain. Another term is chronic pain. And in terms of other conditions, not migraine, typically what is considered persistent chronic pain is when the injury or condition extends longer than 3 months or longer than what is assessed to be a normal healing time. What's odd about the way we define chronic migraine, actually the length of time, the months that it has occurred, is not part of the equation. In chronic migraine, it's defined by the number of attacks per month of headache days. So if you have 15 or more headache days a month, doesn't matter how long it's been happening, that is a chronic migraine. So what happens when someone develops persistent pain, whether it's chronic migraine or chronic back pain, the nervous system begins to become hypersensitive, and multiple things happen from our neurons to our brain. The brain can actually literally change when we develop persistent pain. But what's so amazing is that these changes are not permanent. And that's where we have hope that we can, just as the brain has learned persistent pain, it can unlearn persistent pain. So when you develop persistent pain, you might have heard the term central sensitization. It's that idea that you're starting to become more and more sensitive to triggers in the environment or internally. So that does happen literally in our physiology and anatomy. The nervous system with persistent pain becomes better at not only sending danger signals to our brain, but also we become even more finely attuned to paying attention to them. It's like this, if you can think of the pain as a danger, as an alarm system, it's like the alarms are just blaring all the time. Like we're noticing any little thing, it's sending that alarm off, and it's becoming hypersensitive. So some of the experiences that people with persistent pain experience, some of those common changes, we're moving on to number 3, are that your body literally changes. You might have shallower breath when you're living with persistent pain, more muscle tension, especially for people with migraine, in your upper body and neck. Your body image, how you see yourself can change. You might feel like you're more frail or not as healthy as you'd like. With persistent pain, your thought patterns start to shift. You might experience more negative thinking. And then also the activity of fight or flight is elevated. So when you're experiencing and perceiving danger at this higher volume, your body is in kind trying to protect you. And so it's triggering into fight or flight much more easily. And thank you, Julie, for sharing. I definitely have more muscle tension and more negative thinking. Yeah, you are absolutely not the only one. This is what happens to our brain when that pain persists. And so as you're more activated more easily into fight or flight, that's increasing muscle tension. When you are in the fight or flight response, in that sympathetic response, your eyes dilate so you can see better. There's actually changes with your nerves and how they affect the muscles in your ears so that your hearing is expanded. It's interesting that for so many people with migraine, we become more sensitive to light and sound. Very, very comparable to how people experience that sympathetic fight or flight response. And so finally, another change that you might experience with chronic persistent pain is that your emotions become less balanced. You're tending towards more of a depressed mood. It's harder for you to bounce back from things. But what's wonderful to know is that none of this is permanent and that these can shift. So when we're thinking about pain, it's often especially when we're kind of giving an understanding from more of a neuroscience perspective, it's easy for us to kind of dismiss this as like, oh, so yeah, you're just telling me it's all in my head. Pain's not real. Yeah, I don't want to hear it. So let's go a little deeper into that. Pain is an experience. It's a subjective experience, and it is real. Pain is absolutely real. You are not making it up. However, there are a lot of factors that affect your experience of pain that you might not realize. So kind of come back to that idea that pain is something that is an experience. It's an output of your brain. Your brain is the one who is orchestrating all the hormones and neurons running through your body. It's an amazing organ that is orchestrating all of this. But it is the ultimate decider of what's painful and what intensity the pain is. So when we say pain is all in your head, it can feel dismissive, but in a neuroscience perspective, it's actually accurate that the pain is driven by what's going on in your brain. So let's talk about what those other aspects are that affect pain. What influences our intensity? Because so much of our pain is influenced by how we perceive it. Pain is like an opinion. Our brain's opinion of danger greatly affects it. So our thoughts, our emotions can increase our pain or decrease our pain. That's why when we experience migraine and we start to preoccupy, we start to feel more anxious, we start thinking more about how this is going to affect our future, or we remember our past experience with migraine. All of this serves to help snowball that intensity of the pain. Aspects in our external environment absolutely can affect our pain, but also our internal environment. It kind of comes down to that idea of our migraine threshold. And so when we've kind of lowered our migraine threshold from whether we didn't sleep well, we are on our period, we're feeling sensitive because of what your partner said. All of this is impacting our pain level. Our pain is not just like an objective thing that happens without all these other aspects of our experience. But what's great to know and understand with that is the more that you can intervene with how your thoughts, your emotions, your response to the physical sensation, that's where you have the power. That is where you have the power to shift and teach your brain a new way. So let's talk about that and talk about now the good news about all this. How to change these persistent pain patterns. So persistent pain does create changes in our brain, in our nervous system. It can actually be seen now with technology and scans of how persistent pain can change the brain. But what's exciting is that these changes are not permanent. So when we talk about neuroplastic pain, it's where the brain has developed its own pattern. It's learned to be on guard, hypersensitive, really quick to go into danger and perceive danger. It's grown to do this in an automatic way that's no longer helpful for the original injury or even migraine attack. So the way to change this pattern that the brain has just become more automatic about is to teach your brain something new. And one of the great ways to do that, in my humble opinion, is yoga. Because yoga is giving your brain that experience of safety. The more that you are growing comfortable and experiencing safety and less danger, this can lead to those neuroplastic changes. It's re-educating the nervous system that it doesn't have to be on trigger alert for danger in the environment. Another wonderful approach is pain reprocessing therapy, which does this in a more cognitive mindfulness way, where you experience the physical sensations of pain without running from it, without fighting it, without preoccupying about it, and you learn to sit and feel the sensations while teaching your brain that these sensations are safe. It's not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. And as your brain gets out of this habit that it's created of being hyper alert and just feeling like you're just no longer resilient, like things are just always triggering your migraine symptoms, this is a new practice, just like learning an instrument, just like learning a language. With practice, with repetition, with your daily yoga, this is going to start to change the patterns in your thinking, your body, your nervous system. What's really cool about our neurons is that they do, just like all the cells in our body, they do get replaced. And as you can start new patterns of feeling more safe, the neurons also change when they get replaced in your body, when they kind of die off and new ones get replaced. And these new ones are like, okay, this is my new default. I feel safer. I don't have to be on trigger hair alert. And this can help reduce the intensity of the pain. So I'm going to start to go into our questions. I know that was a ton of information and a very, very light surface level. There are obviously so much to the neuroscience of pain, but I hope this helps you feel empowered that there's something that you can do to intervene, to change your response to the pain. Obviously, that's how I have helped others and reduce my own pain. And also with my clients, using yoga, pain reprocessing therapy in my Beyond Migraine coaching program. If you're interested to learn more about how to do these things that I'm talking about, how to make your brain and body feel safe again so that you experience less pain, drop support in the comments, I will absolutely reach out. We can have a little 15-minute phone call to see what's going on with you. Oh, Sylvia, great that you're here. Oh, I've got a PhD in neuroscience backing me up. Love it. Yeah, it's complex. I'm so happy that you shared that, Sylvia. That I had to review some of my readings before I came on here. So let's talk about some questions from the audience that people submitted. Heather asked why pain during migraine moves from one place to another. What's so crazy about migraine is that everyone's experience is so different. Generally, my pain is like very targeted in one area and doesn't move around a lot. But yeah, it's when you start to really observe the pain, it's very normal for sensations to shift around. And that's actually a good sign when you are observing the pain. If you notice things moving, means you don't have like a firm grip on it, like you're trying to control it. And our body is full of sensations that change constantly. And often the experience of pain doesn't correlate to tissue damage. It's like that, this idea that it's an experience, but it's not an accurate fact of where pain or damage has occurred. So it's a little bit mysterious, Heather, why things shift around, but just know like the experience of pain is constantly shifting. It doesn't necessarily accurately represent what's going on in the body. Mariana asked how pain can become chronic and how to reduce it. She just had wisdom teeth out 4 months ago, but she's still feeling tension in her face. So I'm hoping we touched a little bit on that, but at that point, right, where it's like, hey, I should be feeling better by now. What's going on? Starting to practice experiencing that tension and reminding yourself that you're safe, that it's okay, that it's there, that you don't have to run from it, you don't have to fix it. As simple as it sounds, with repetition, this is what's going to help reverse that pain. The more we think the pain is a huge problem and we're trying to solve it and we're trying to go to all the migraine specialists to get rid of it, paradoxically, it's reinforcing to the brain, danger, danger, this is a major issue that we need to fix because it is a major threat, and that only increases the pain. So for you, I think experiencing whatever that tension is, observing what it does, breathing through it, as we talked about, when you are experiencing persistent pain, your breath changes, you develop more muscle tension. And so to practice relaxation, activating the parasympathetic rest and digest response more regularly is definitely going to help. Anna mentioned, I rarely experienced headache until my early 40s. What happened to my headache and why? And that now I experience headaches pretty often during stress. I love your question, Anna, because this is very typical for people who develop persistent neuroplastic pain, that for many people, not all, for many people, symptoms start to come after a period of stress, perhaps a traumatic event, but doesn't have to be, the big T trauma, even just moving, starting a new job, feeling overwhelmed as a new parent. Many people I talk to have experienced an increase in migraine, or maybe first developed migraine after a stressful event. And I would say that was the case for me as well. I didn't get diagnosed with migraine until my mid-20s, and I feel like for many people that it's on the later side, and that my migraine developed during my first year as a public school teacher, and a very stressful, busy time of being high alert. And so, our brains kind of developed this coping mechanism to say, hey, slow down, rest, here's a migraine, rest. And so then your brain can start, because of your past experiences, because your predictions of what's going to happen in the future with your migraine pain, when you do experience stress, that's starting to increase those danger signals to your brain, likely the fight or flight response. And so it's Very normal. 4 out of 5 people with migraine report stress to be a trigger. So learning to practice relaxation more regularly. Our yoga practice is so helpful for that. That will get you to the point where your stress level, you're feeling more resilient to stress, and as a result, your migraine symptoms will decrease because you're feeling safer. You're able to bounce back more easily. Let's see. We've got a couple more questions before we wrap up, and if you are joining me live, feel free to add something. Amy said, pain is a scale. I've had major surgeries and managed to forget the intensity of it. But pain like throbbing joints can be very hard not to focus on. I've been able to do guided meditation to help my brain refocus. Migraine pain, that's very dynamic and difficult to get around. Yeah, so there you're kind of talking about that difference between acute pain, which, you know, you stub your toe, maybe you had a major surgery, you had this one-time thing, and it doesn't linger with us. It is now, I think what you might be describing, Amy, with like throbbing joints and migraine is that persistent pain. And the persistent pain does always give us something for our brain to like preoccupy about. It's there, it is unpleasant, so that we pay attention to it. And so paradoxically, letting it be there and being with the pain rather than trying to avoid it is actually more of a long-term strategy that can be helpful. Experiencing the throbbing joints, sitting with it, actually allowing yourself to focus on it, but doing it in a way that's reminding yourself that you're safe. This is all from the pain reprocessing therapy approach. It's of course a little tricky to just, have me talk about it in a minute without really leading you through it. But I do have somatic tracking practices. If that's something that you want a video on, write somatic tracking video, somatic tracking in the comments, and I'll send the videos to you so you can start to practice that. I think what's particularly hard with migraine pain, it is in our head, and pain that is in our head feels more intense. We are, as humans, identify so much with our head, and our bodies, like the rest of our bodies, like secondary. And so I think it's just part of human nature that, the experience of sensations in our head is going to be more prominent. We just identify with our head so much more. But the more that we are okay, we acknowledge what's going on in our head, we sit with it, we are understandable, we show our pain, understanding and compassion without running or pushing through. This is what's going to change your relationship to migraine over time. It's not a one and done. It does take repetition over and over, just like learning an instrument. Molly asked how to control pain. And what is fascinating is that, we're all here trying to learn how to control migraine, how to control our pain. And the paradoxical answer I'm going to give you is that the less you try to control it, the less pain you will have. It's in the not controlling it that you're going to, in the long term, find relief. We do so much. We feel like we got to do everything just right to control migraine, to control our environment. What that does is just keeps reinforcing to our brain, danger, danger. We're on high alert to try to manage what the triggers are. And it's through that process of living with more ease, with being okay with the pain, with sending the pain, our kindness, our understanding, our need for it not to be any different. This is what's going to change the pain. This is what's going to diminish it. It's in that, I'm going to say that one more time. It's in the release of control of the pain that you will begin to control the pain. This is a very Zen approach. And then I wanted to finish off with Brenda's question about abdominal pain with migraine and how she fell recently. She hurt her upper back, but then a few days later, now she's feeling the pain. So yes, there's a few things on abdominal pain with migraine. One, there is a type of migraine called abdominal migraine that is its own diagnosis, and so might want to look up on it, ask your doctor about if that's what's happening. It's very common in children, but I do know of some grown-ups as well who experience it. But also GI issues can be a common symptom for migraine. I think a lot of it has to do with that activation of the fight or flight response as well, where when you are ready to fight or flight, you are not going to be eating. You're trying to send your blood flow to your limbs so that you are ready to flee. And so in doing so, your digestion is not optimal. That's often why we might feel nauseous. We might lose our appetite. We might also have unusual food cravings that we hadn't had earlier. So it all affects our digestion as well. And so it kind of takes a little bit of talking through personally with you what might be going on there. But migraine particularly, it is not just an experience of a headache. You know that. It's not just a headache. It's a full body experience that's very individual. Can affect everything from our head to our toes. Our whole nervous system is affected. And I hope that in better understanding some of these aspects of pain, that it's something that your brain has learned in the instance of persistent pain. It's not your fault. Your brain was doing its best to protect you, but it's just got a little too good at it. And so you can learn strategies through the practice of yoga, through pain reprocessing therapy techniques to change your relationship to pain. And in doing so, the volume of your pain will go down. You're less easily excitable into developing pain. So reach out if you had an aha moment that really resonated with you from my talk today. I'd love to hear it in the comments. And if you have questions about the work that I help people do in helping you decrease your pain, reach out, send me a DM, or type support in the comments. So lots of love to you all. I'm wishing you a day with low pain, and whether you are in pain or not, it's okay. It will pass, and just being okay with it is the way to start to get out of it, as hard and crazy and paradoxical as it seems. All right, folks, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.